And I was one of those people that thought I couldn't quiet my mind, or, I'm not doing it correctly. Well, even in yoga, in the beginning where it's like they're asking you to focus on your breath, and I'd be thinking about something I need to be doing after class, learning that was okay and I wasn't doing it incorrectly. And now flash forward to I can meditate for 5 hours and that's not an issue.
How long have you been meditating for? Like, when did you start and why? How did you start incorporating it?
So meditation, I think, really the gateway to that was through yoga. Just even connecting to breath and understanding that feeling, like all of a sudden, like you understand and you can feel the difference in your nervous system. And so that sense of calm, where I didn't ever have a sense of calm because my nervous system was so dysregulated, and I had lived in trauma for so long. So I had a lot of post-traumatic stress, childhood stress, childhood depression, right? So I knew what it was like to feel bad. So it was very remarkable when I started to feel good. And so I've been, practicing yoga, off and on over the years since my 20s. And then I would say I got really consistent with yoga in my later 30s. And then I did my yoga teacher training in my 40s. Actually, in 2020, just as everything shut down, I was, in my yoga teacher training. And I think that's why I really thrived. I really thrived during that whole era. A lot of people were struggling, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing really good because
right? It's a good time.
I was learning the power of meditation. And if you know yoga, you know that yoga isn't about the asanas, which are the postures. The postures are really to get you prepared for meditation. So yoga is meditation.
So what is I know you mentioned Joe Dispenza.
Mm-hmm.
How did you, why don't you tell us a little bit about, okay, we'll start at the beginning where you started with yoga. You started going within and learning how to feel good and what feeling good is supposed to be like. And then I would assume that feeling good is a safe place to be. Like, you don't have to be on guard, and your body doesn't have to be ready to freak out and leave a situation at every moment of your life, right?
Right.
And so then fast forwarding, the 3 years from 2020 to now, you just went to a Dr. Joe Dispenza. How long was it? 4 days, 5 days?
A week long. Yeah, a week long advanced retreat.
Like you said, you've done 5-hour meditations. Like, how did you go from one extreme of not being able to finish the yoga class and worry about what was happening later on to like being able to just close your eyes and completely lose track of time for 5 hours?
Right. Well, practice, right? Again, when I was talking about, fitness and nutrition and all of that, is consistency. And so practicing even when it's difficult, and being aware of my fixed mindset around that, right? So shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, that I can get better at this, I can develop the skill. And then eventually, because of the shifts, that really happen, like at a cellular level, right? Like our chromosomes can change, our telomeres are affected by meditation, and all the research shows this. So it's kind of fascinating. And so when that's happening in your body, and I'm no longer firing and wiring the way that I was, right. I'm creating a new reality for myself. And therefore, I was feeling so good. So I was feeling the absence of dis-ease, including how I thought. Being at peace when you have never been at peace is really hard to explain. But to me, it makes me emotional, but it's almost like if you could think of like everything that we're striving towards, whatever your beliefs are, heaven, the afterlife, whatever, I feel like I live that now. Like there's nothing else. I can connect to that directly and have so much joy. and health and healing, like things that have changed in my body. So, I'm super passionate about it, and that's why I talk about it so much. And I ease into it with people for sure, because I know where I was, right? It's like I wasn't in a place to hear it when there was so much noise in my body and in my mind. And I wasn't in a safe place. But when you get there, I mean, all you want is for other people to experience that. So it's just time and consistency and learning. And then I would see, the little snippets like Joe Dispenza just sort of came out of, from way back when with What the Bleep Do We Know? Like that very old documentary. And I'd see his name pop up in circles. And then I would see things. What really drew me in was the science. So I like that. I love that. And it made sense to me. So I read one of his books, How to Become Supernatural. And I was like, okay, he explains the science. This makes sense. And then, listened, found, some YouTube, talks and meditations, and then found his website. And then I'm like, oh, heck, I'm going to take this course. So he had an intensive and progressive course where he really explains it from, here, like rock bottom of what is meditation to really sort of getting into the science and understanding more of like quantum physics and all of that sort of thing. So that was very fulfilling. And then he teaches it in a scientific way too, so that the more you do it and you get to that feeling of homeostasis and you feel amazing, then you crave it, right? So I'd wake up and be like, my mind and body needs this, right? So now it becomes very easy to do. And then in the advanced retreat that my husband and I went to, then he teaches even more. So then we really, went pretty deep into. He pulled back the curtain, so to speak. And I think you have to do the foundational stuff first before you dive into that and really start talking about, how our pineal gland is a radio receiver, all of that sort of stuff, right? Like people are like, what? So, really tapping into that and getting into the science behind it has been amazing for me. And there's just so much more to learn. So that's been the journey. But now it's just like, it's like breathing. We need oxygen, right? I feel like I want to have that feeling of being well and just being happy. And I recognize how important that is. And I know when I'm not there. So I'm very in tune now and can catch when, if I don't feel good, then I'm not in alignment. I got to work on something, right? And the best way for me to do that is to meditate and get myself there. And so, like, one thing that always comes back to me is a statement is, it feels good to feel good. So if I'm not feeling good, I got to work to get there, right? So it's sort of been my journey thus far. It's ongoing, right?
That must be, it must be nice to be in a place where, you want to feel good and you want to do the things that make you feel good. But like to have gone through all the changes and the different stages to get from, eating to make yourself feel uncomfortable and staying in that level of stress to almost advancing and graduating to like, hey, I want to feel good. I never want to put myself in that situation. Wake up in the morning and strive to meditate instead of grab a cup of coffee and a muffin. Like, good for
I'll
you.
still grab the coffee.
No, it's like, it's like, it's just that so many people, if there were a way that they could do it, which is what you're telling us how to do, like, it's just a matter of putting that work in and understanding that you can get there and you can make that change within your life.
Yeah. And
I don't
it's,
think there's a lot of people that have the faith, the trust, nor the inner talk and like the inner love to even, how do I even, to even think that they could get halfway there, let alone
right.
actually be there,
Yeah.
right?
And it doesn't matter what you believe either, right? So whatever your core belief system is, we can meditate. And So I might think of being in alignment or connecting to consciousness in one way,
Right.
whereas if you're Christian, you can connect to God in
Well,
the
or
way that
prayer, like
you.
prayer is a form of meditation, is it not?
Absolutely, it is. So we can all be there. We can all do this consistently. And what I've realized is like the variety of beliefs there are out there. We're all really striving for that same thing,
Yeah.
that same connection. And so, it takes time to just start and it's simply. So I've used the example of literally just connect and recognize your breath. If that's the first thing that you can do,
Yeah.
like I said, yoga was the gateway meditation drug for me. The classes weren't heavy on meditation, but it was just that little bit when we start in Shavasana and we're connect to your breath, your Ujjayi breath, and breathing in and having this constricted exhale and learning different breaths and how that felt in my body and my mind. I was just so much lighter. But you can do that just starting with just noticing, just breathing in, trying to fill up your belly, noticing the quality of your breath just for a few moments a day, right? Like
Yeah.
it's start there. um, Read books, find what resonates or who resonates with you, a teacher that resonates with you, because what resonates with me might not resonate with somebody else, right? So
Right.
do what works for you.
Yeah. All these experiences are always going to be different
Yeah,
and personal because everybody's on a different path and everybody's a different kind of person, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So, will you share with us, or do you feel comfortable sharing with us how your health has changed?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah. Well, so I've had uh, chronic kidney disease since I was a child. It was diagnosed at 15 when my kidneys started to shut down. And so, and I didn't really realize, I was sort of left untreated there. And that was just sort of a state of, my upbringing at the time. Like, nobody really followed up on it. I didn't understand that I had kidney disease, and I went
Right.
around and lived my life not feeling amazing all the time. And so I didn't have a biopsy um, until how old was I? Gosh, I was in my, it was like 2012, I think. I had a biopsy which showed intermediate stage kidney disease, so like stage 4 kidney disease. And my nephrologist was shocked because he's like, he didn't think anything was really going to come out of the biopsy, but it showed that I had a focal segmental glomerular sclerosis and glomerular nephritis. So two different diseases happening in the kidneys. Kidneys were damaged, not functioning. So he just said to me at that time, whatever you're doing, just keep doing. Most of it, I believe, was, nutrition and exercise at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and still a strive to not really understanding meditation, but understanding the importance of pursuing parasympathetic activity. So I was already there.
Yeah.
Um, so but I was on medication. I was told that I probably, my kidneys will probably fail within a decade, and you need to be prepared for that. um, what is that going to look like? So that was on my mind, thinking about dialysis, or what if I need a kidney transplant and all that sort of thing. um, but I've managed to dodge that. And like my last blood work in February, um, because I was always sort of teetering at a sometimes under a 60 GFR, which is a problem because they don't want you below that. Because then it's downhill slope, and I've been there
Right.
before. But then I teeter around there where it's like, they're functioning, but not really. Um, to my last blood work with a GFR of 111. So my doctor was like, wow, this is the best it's ever been.
Wow.
And I really attribute that to meditation and changes happening in my body. And there's so much research on that, on reversal of disease. It's absolutely fascinating. You can see all the evidence of that. Anybody can reach out to me and I can show you the research company that I contribute to because I've seen it. So, if I'm going to donate somewhere, it's to that, right? So, inner science research, you can look that up. The evidence is there. It's some of the research my husband was a participant in, serum labs, EEGs, all that sort of stuff. So you see the evidence. And then the other thing was Graves. So when I was diagnosed with Graves in 2018, I had thyroid eye disease at the time. If you don't know what that means, look it up. It's not pretty, like where your eyes actually are bulging out, right? So it was affecting one of my eyes more so than the other. Very hyperthyroid. So think heavy anxiety, muscle wasting. So you're losing weight, but not in a nice way, right? So muscle wasting, all that sort of stuff. Shaky. It's just horrible feeling. Like I can't even explain it, but you just don't want to feel that way, right? I think I'd rather be hypo than hyper from my experience. I'd rather
talk to someone who's got hypothyroidism and they'll probably tell you the opposite.
Exactly. Right? I've been on both. So from my experience, I've been on both and I was far more anxious and your heart is like, you think you're going to have a heart attack. Like it's scary, right? So
because hyper is everything's ramped up, right? Whereas hypo is everything is low. So
yes. Yeah. Digestion and everything. You might be constipated, right? Whereas on the other side of the coin, you might have diarrhea each day because everything is high speed.
Moving so intensely.
So that was the other thing. I was on medication for a short period of time. And then I weaned myself off that gradually. I wasn't on it for very long. And, I did that under the guidance of my care provider. So I didn't just quit my medication. But currently, in remission for that too. And I've been told, well, no, once you have it, you always have it. Currently my thyroid markers are great and my antibodies are great. And, the only way that I can explain that is through the work of meditation and really doing the work to create that change at a cellular level in my body. And so that has made a huge difference. And that's not to say that that's going to be for everyone.
Right.
Or, you can heal yourself this way. This is my experience, but there's a lot of research showing similar stories. And so, worst case, I think, what do you have to lose in order to just feel better generally, right? So generally, if you can feel better, it will help you manage your disease. So even if you don't have remission or healing of disease, there was another thing that I went through too when I went to Joe Dispenza's, like you can ask to be part of their coherence healings. So if you look that up, it's quite interesting. So the coherence healing is when all of the meditators there focus their attention on the Healy. So people with different diseases or ailments or what have you. And at that time when I was there, I had a large cyst here. And I hadn't done anything about it, but it was there. And so during the healing session, the last one, it was actually incredible. And this experience might sound weird to some people, but you can feel, I'm in the right place for that, but you can feel the energy of people, right? And so after the meditation was done, I had my mask on, eyes closed, and there's like 6 people on chairs meditating over you, sending their love, essentially what it is. And at the end of that, I sat up and I was like, wow, that was amazing. And thank you for putting your hands on me. And they're all like, none of us put our hands on you. I felt physical hands on me. And that was really amazing. What an incredible experience, like physical for sure. I knew it was there. I would thank them for that. And then, as we're talking, they're like, well, did you feel anything? They're excited because they're feeling good. And I'm like, no, I could really feel the energy. Even when they walked up, you could feel that, the patterns, the like the electrical type energy, just feeling generally good. And then I was sitting there and I looked at my wrist and my cyst was gone. And I'm like, okay. I said, my cyst is gone. And they're like, oh, so, well, when was the last time you saw it? And I said, when I laid down.
I'm gonna close my eyes.
And just like, not too long ago. So I was like hesitant to say anything or to talk about it because I thought, well, I don't want it to come back, right? Or
Right.
say that it's gone. But yeah, my husband was blown away because when he came over, I'm like, yeah, my ganglion cyst or whatever it was isn't there anymore. And so that was, to me, proof of like spontaneous healing, and that's possible. And
That's
I just
pretty
thought that
interesting.
was so cool, super
Wow.
fascinating. But what I've experienced already with how I try not to take ownership of my kidney disease or I don't want to own those things. I've experienced them, and currently they're not ailing me. So
Yeah, they're gone as far as you're concerned right
yeah,
now,
my
right?
inflammation is so much better. I feel good in my body. I've seen changes in my skin. Um, just like younger skin where like a lot of the times things would manifest in my skin, right? So um, and that seems to be reversing itself as well, which was an intention that I'd put out there.
Which is
So
pretty amazing if your estrogen levels have like if you've gone through menopause or going through it, I think that's the first thing to go, right?
that
Everything starts
was
to shrivel up.
yeah, exactly. I was like, what? You just shrivel and shriveling up here. And like, I've had people say to me too, like, oh, you look younger every time. And I'm like, yeah, that's just where my state of being is right now. But it's fascinating to see it happen. Um,
That's cool.
yeah.
So your secrets to anti-aging are tracking your shreds,
Yeah.
regulating your nervous system, and learning meditation at whatever level suits you best.
Yeah. Whatever level suits you best, because
Yeah.
once you get into a regular practice, it's just one of those things that sort of snowballs, right? So just start where you're at. Sometimes just feeling safe enough to breathe past here. A lot of times we're blocked. I would have a lot of problems. So thyroid, having my voice, speaking up for myself, speaking my truth, being authentically me. I had a hard time. My breath would get stuck there, and it would also get stuck in my heart center, right? And so
Yep.
with the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, we learn how to breathe and really how to draw the breath up, um, really from your perineum all the way up to your brain. And so you can draw that cerebral fluid up, and there's all sorts of cool things that happen in your body doing that.
Yep.
But I learned to break past that and focus on the areas where I needed to focus on. And that's life changing too, right? So much like the physical part, sure, is really cool, but I really enjoy um, the emotional, mental part more, where you're really actually happy in your life, genuinely,
Hmm.
like genuinely to there's times where I thought I was happy, but there was always a sense of resistance, wanting something else. If I have this, I'll be happy. Once I get past this phase of my life, I'll be happy. To just being happy. And so when you are there, then more things come to you to make you happy. It's like unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. So that's why I come back. If I circle all the way back, I really focus on the nervous system because that's kind of the gateway there too. I'm just getting people to notice and name what's going on with them, recognizing how they're feeling, and that's not normal, right? And it's not cool to be there. And if you look around just now yourself, if you're driving home from work and you notice how people are amped up and rushing, and they're in this pattern of getting up and going to work, and you can tell a lot of times people don't love what they do, they don't love their lives, they don't love themselves. You feel it. I see inflammation everywhere I go now. I see it on people. I can look at them and know what's wrong. Like, I'm just like, ugh, I feel it. And a lot of that is that stress. And then it's so much more so since the world shut down. Like, that caused a lot of problems, right? And so now we're dealing with the effects of that, and people aren't happy. And we can be happy though. And sometimes it feels weird to feel so happy in an unhappy world, right? But I'm like, I just want to help everybody else get there too. Yeah.
It's almost like if you're too happy, you don't fit in. And it's
Oh,
bad enough to
totally.
not fit in to begin
Yeah.
with because we've been berating ourselves with what's wrong with us our whole lives because we don't fit in when really that's where you want to go. That's where you want to be is
Mm-hmm.
happy where you can help other peoples to get to that point too, right?
Yeah. Like, what
It's
else
pretty,
is there? Why wouldn't we want that? Right? Why wouldn't we
never been
want that?
taught. Nobody knows that that's normal. Nobody knows that that's even a possibility because we're
Well,
taught.
I think of it like a VR helmet. Like most of us are living a virtual reality, and we need to take that shit off, right? And start experiencing the true joy of life. But we're so stuck in patterns and habits and ways of thinking, and very trapped in our bodies, and trapped in our minds. And that's where I start with nervous system regulation. So it's not even, that's something where people can start to recognize it and notice, wow, I'm not feeling really good. I didn't really notice that before, without just saying, hey, let's do a 5-hour meditation and I'm going to show you how to draw cerebral fluid up to your pineal gland and attract everything. They're going to go like, are you nuts? No, let's
Yeah,
just
they'll have
talk about your
everybody run
shreds.
away.
Let's just talk about your shreds. So,
Just talk about your regrets. No, I guess one day at a time is one thing
yeah.
that I don't think people just 5 minutes at a time, one
Mm-hmm.
hour at a time, one day at a time, starting somewhere and just being okay and allowing yourself just that little bit where you're going to be perfect just for those 5 minutes. And even if you show up for that, that's still perfect because you still showed up. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like you got to meet yourself that day how you're doing. But if you didn't do it yesterday and you do it tomorrow, then yesterday's not any worse than tomorrow. It's still you showing up for yourself in
Yeah.
some capacity, right?
Yeah. And
Just
celebrate those wins. Like, celebrate
yeah,
those. Yeah.
start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with me
You're
or with
welcome.
us. Yeah, I really appreciate it. And I'm sure you've given a lot of people a lot to think about, even just places to start or somewhere to go to just start researching or
Mm-hmm.
looking. And yeah, so we'll put all of Natalie's information in the information for the podcast episode. So you'll be able to reach out to her if there's anything you'd like. And yeah, one more question for you,
Mm-hmm.
Natalie. What does wellness mean to you?
Oh, well, I think I sort of touched on that, and that's just, being at peace, really. Peace in my body, in my mind, in my relationships, and what I'm doing. Um, it's that deep health, and not just feeling like that it's in one area of, oh, my physique. Oh, I'm really happy with my body, but my emotional state is trash, right? So it's really looking at all the areas of my life and looking for that homeostasis in all of those areas. And, that's really what it means to me.
Well, thank you, Natalie.